Good morning, everybody. This is Grant Sparks of the Grant Sparks Show, and I tried to book a trip to the Bahamas, and I found out not only did I have a Zen problem, I had a Kaizen problem. We're going to be talking about that on today's show, and more as it pertains to personal development. And there's a major flaw in personal development that I have only uncovered. I've known it in paper, I've known it in theory, but I've only uncovered for myself experientially in this season, and I'm going to get vulnerable and share that with you on the rough road I've had to saying yes to the trip in the Bahamas, and then shortly thereafter to a trip to Bogota, Colombia, shortly thereafter another trip to Bogota, Colombia, and then probably another trip to Chile. Chile. So we're going to be covering this and more, and the problem I have discovered for myself and you, hopefully. Me Sim says, yo, on YouTube. Good morning, Me Sim. I hope you're doing fantastic. So let's talk about this and more. But before we do anything, you know what it's like on the Grant Sparks Show. When we do a Grant Sparks Show, the first thing we start with is Morning Cup of Gratitude. So in the comments, finance.al, I see you on the show here. I see you here, Me Sim. Tell me in the comments what you're grateful for today, and let's get started. This morning, I'm grateful for two major things. Number one, I'm grateful for my morning campfire. Nearly every morning. Good morning, Sammy, Surf 18. I hope you're doing fantastic. On this morning's campfire, I had a great little campfire this morning as I was doing my morning study. Usually, whenever I can, I now try to go out back, have a fire. It's kind of a ritual for me now. As long as I have morning time to study and read, I'm grateful for it. I came across several major pieces of revelation for myself. So I'm grateful for that. I am absolutely grateful that I was finally able to book this trip to the Bahamas. I have had no problem in general traveling, but today's show is about a major problem I discovered that I have had, and this is now what I'm revealing to be a decades-long problem. And it isn't just the fact that I blame the people around me because I try to serve them, and in my little story, my traumatized story loops, I convince myself that I'm serving them and they're not serving me, and so I can't say yes to myself. I got these weird story loops. But as I was exploring those, I realized that I have spent years putting myself on the sideline to my goals. I'm here to talk about this today and reveal this. But before we touch any of that, I want to hear, again, if you're watching now, wherever you're at, I want to hear in the comments, Me Sim says, my health. I don't know what part of the world you're in or where you're at, Me Sim, but I am grateful that you, shared that you're grateful for your health. There are some people who cannot be grateful for their health, and they don't realize that just being healthy and alive is a dream for other people. I am also grateful for my health, and then also for the warmer weather. I don't know where you're at. It's a little chilly this morning, but in general, in Central Florida, it's been very warm. It's been very nice. I've been able to have the door open and breathe that fresh air. I'm also grateful for that today. What are you grateful for? Whenever you're watching this later today, or if you're bopping on, share in the comments. I cannot wait to hear what you're grateful for. Let's talk about something real quick before we talk about the flaw with Kaizen and personal development. Very briefly, I share this information. I'm going to be very quick about it so that you become immune to the headlines. My goal for you is to build resilience, mental and emotional resilience, so that you can stay focused on your goals. You can stay focused on yourself. You can own the outcome and the results that you're trying to get so that you can absolutely stay on top of your goals. I touch on the markets. Me Sim says, I'm in Chicago. It's been cold for a while. It's finally getting warm. Listen, Me Sim, I literally was about to book a trip to Chicago. I'm in Central Florida. I looked at the temperatures and I said, oh, hell no, I'm going to the islands instead. If you're watching on Instagram, Me Sim is chatting with me a little bit on YouTube. So feel free to hop over there or watch us live wherever you get your streaming services. Real quick, my job is to make you, my goal on the planet is to help you achieve more of your goals. That's my goal. My entire goal from here until the day I die is to help you watching achieve more of your goals. I have achieved so much and I am fulfilled and grateful for it. And I have more goals. I have way more than I'm trying to achieve. But a lot of people are getting hung up. A lot of people are getting hung up on a variety of things. And one of those things is their own emotional state as it pertains to the markets. Real quick, in the traditional finance, what we call TradFi, the Dow is at 45. Last week, it was at 43. The S&P is at 5,900. Last week, it was at 6,000. Not much different. The NASDAQ's at 21,000. Last week, it was at 21,700. Listen, I share this because you're going to see the headlines and they're going to try to convince you to panic. They're going to try to convince you to get super greedy or super fearful. They're going to try to have your emotions all over the place because they want you to be reactive to the markets. That's when they make the most amount of money. Bitcoin's at 92,000. Last week it was at 95. Not much difference, though we saw a major dip to around 74,000. It spiked back to 92. Who knows where it's at? I invest in crypto and I can watch my emotions be tempted to get pulled away from anything but my goals. But I report it week over week so that you realize, it's about the same generally week over week. And my hair hasn't fallen out because of it. And my health is still in place. As Me Sim mentioned, my health, the weather is still warm. There's going to be a March of Planets on Friday. During the middle of COVID, when I was doing the show, I would report on astrological things or astronomical things like the planets, because it's beautiful to walk outside and see that while they're trying to make you feel fearful from the headlines. So today, again, Bitcoin's at 92, last week 95. Ethereum's at 23, last week 26. XRP, $2.60. Forget about it. I'm done. I could report on all that stuff because ADA's at 97 cents. Cardano, when it was at 73 cents last week. I report on this so that you can hear it and go, it's not that much different, and I should be investing. Let's do another show on investing in crypto. You guys know, if you follow my channel for any length of time, you know that I've got a bunch of crypto content. I'm big on it. But what I don't want it to do is derail you from your passion and your goals and your energetic state of staying focused on the things that matter to you. Good morning, Freedom Nation. I hope you're doing fantastic this morning. That's over on Instagram. Hope you're doing great. So I only share the markets with you in headlines like that so that you stay focused on your goals. Good morning, Alice Renee. I hope you're doing fantastic. That's on Instagram. Good morning. So when does Kaizen fail us? Real quick, and I'm going to share this quickly and let you get off to your work study or your work days. Kaizen, for those who don't know, has been a practice that came out of the late 1950s after we bombed Japan. Nagasaki discovered it was at an impasse, and a lot of its warrior class, the samurai class, had been started to be pushed away in the late 1800s, early 1900s in the westernization of Japan. But there was still this spirit of Bushido going on in Japan, and they lost, if you will, the war when we bombed their country with nuclear bombs, the only time it's ever been used. And as a society, they were devastated emotionally, financially, economically. They were absolutely wrecked. And they challenged themselves. The Bushido class stepped up to the plate and they asked themselves, how can we bounce back? And they said, why don't we take the spirit of the samurai and apply it to economics? This is a very well-studied economic transition that happened in Japan. And we get Kaizen out of this. They basically ask themselves, how do we apply the absolute best practices in industry and economics, like we did war, like we did being samurais, like we did with swordplay? How do we do this economically? And they began studying capitalism and economics. And they applied Kaizen. Kaizen is simply this. It's 1% improvements every day. And this is a huge philosophy. 1% improvements every single day. So out post 50s, they started applying what we now know as the lean methodology of capitalism. It was meant for minimizing waste and maximizing output. It helped Japan in that very next decade, in the decade of the 50s. Japan went from being a devastated country to being the leader in electronics exports. Good morning, Billy Weigel. Hope you're doing fantastic. In that decade alone, Japan became the leading exporter of electronics, the world's leader in manufacturing and creating quality electronics. And in the second decade of the 60s, they then did the same thing with appliances and cars. And slowly, decade after decade, Japan built back in just a few decades, the only country ever to have nuclear bombs dropped on it in the middle of war. And they came back like this. And they largely attribute that to the act of Kaizen, 1% improvements in every area, every single day. And if you got these improvements in every single area, every single day, you could see radical compounded improvements. And this is true today. In the 90s and 2000s, we started adopting this in the West, in North America, and in the UK. And we've seen huge improvements. Get 1% better all the time. Billy Weigel says, gratitude, my man Grant. Let's get after it again this week. We need to connect about an investment builder connection. Okay, listen, I'm gonna freaking text you momentarily. I will do this before I shower. I haven't even showered. I woke up this morning, did my workout, hit the campfire. Billy Weigel over on Instagram, giving us a shout. You can follow us on Instagram as well there too. So Kaizen led to a lot of economic development. Now, in the 90s and 2000s, the personal development movement took off. And for those of you who don't know, might just be joining the show for the first time, I am a personal development coach. I'm a goals coach. I help people achieve their goals more than if they had never met me before. That's what I do. That's what I'll do till the day I die. I help people accomplish goals. I have a few businesses, but this is my thing. What I have found in personal development is that the idea of 1% improvement, Kaizen, has been very helpful because a lot of people who set out to achieve goals oftentimes get overwhelmed at achieving goals. I want to climb Mount Everest. I want to have six-pack abs. I want to build $1 million company, and they've never built a $100,000 company. And when they're faced with this, all the things required to achieve $100,000 million company or six-pack abs or climbing Mount Everest, suddenly they get overwhelmed because it's more than they've ever done. Can you link your Twitter? I will absolutely link my Twitter, but it's simply grantsparks.me. Boom. I put it right there. That should come through to you, me Sims. I am on Twitter, and I think we go live on Twitter too. I have to go see the connection. I haven't looked at Twitter in a little while, so if I'm not going live there, please forgive me, but I'll check that as well. So long story short, personal development has evolved quite a bit to start adopting this 1% mentality because big goals require big focus. If you've never gotten off the couch, but you want six-pack abs, you suddenly start thinking, I got to do the gym. I got to do the diet. I got to do push-ups. I got to start eating right, like the whole thing. And it just becomes overwhelming quickly. So the idea of Kaizen as it came to personal development was very helpful. Instead of having to do all of this at once, I could do 1% improvements every day. If you've never had six-pack abs and you've been sitting on the couch, it's easy to just put your shoes on and go for a walk around the neighborhood. Go for a walk to the post office box or to your mailbox. And just to start, now, instead of fixing my entire diet, I'm going to stop drinking soda. That's a good start. You can make small 1% improvements. And this has been Kaizen in the area of personal development has been very good. But here is where Kaizen has gotten out of control. Kaizen, as it comes to personal development, has led to an unconscious thought, and it is this: I need continuous improvement. Think about this for a second. Think about goal setting for a second, and think about all the people that have been coaching you to do more or do better. It sounded more and more like I have to continuously improve, relentlessly improve. If we follow any of the gurus like Cody Sanchez and Alex Hormozy, who I'm a big fan of both of those people. I'm a big fan of a lot of these gurus. But if you pay attention to their feed, it feels like they're encouraging you to do continuous improvement. And on the surface, that sounds good. On the surface, a lot of young people have not really achieved much. And so the idea of them starting to get sick of who they have been and wanting to be something more powerful is evident. Of course. And continuous improvement gives us something to focus on where we can actually make massive improvements. And those massive improvements become addictive. And they become your personality, that I'm always improving. Personal development by nature feels like it should be continuous. But why am I wearing this outfit? I usually am showered and dressed and my hair's done and I've got my nice watch on and all that stuff when I do the show. Why don't I? Because today, my friends, is a rest day. If you have followed my account for any length of time, you know that gym life, gym culture, bodybuilding, lifting, exercise, athleticism is a big part of my life. Whether it's surfing on the coast, whether it's lifting weights most days, whether it's doing CrossFit style workouts and HIIT, you guys know that I'm big, that at my age, I want to have abs. And I've been there and now I'm on a bulk, so I lost them. And now I'm back in a cut, so I'm trying to get back to my abs. You know that I've traveled to Costa Rica to do a retreat and to eat right and to surf. You know that I've traveled the world doing a lot of this stuff, both business and fitness. And I want that for everybody. But the one lesson I have learned from lifting is that if you do not have rest days, you lose your gains. Think about that for a second. Let that settle in. If you do not take a rest day, you lose your gains or you minimize your ability to maximize your gains. Said another way, if you do a heavy lift day for 1 or 2 days in a row, maybe 3, if you do not take a rest day, your recovery or your gains have a diminishing return. But if you take a rest day, you maximize your body's ability to build muscle. to recover. You can track this with your Whoop. You can track, the data is empirical. If you do not take a rest day, you start to have diminishing returns on your body's ability to give you gains. Doesn't matter how well you eat. Doesn't matter how hard you go. I'm just going to go harder. No, try taking a rest day. And when you've made fitness your identity, it is very hard to do. This leads me to the idea of me trying to book my Bahamas trip. I live in Florida and I've never been to the Bahamas. I have traveled around the world more than once. I have been to freaking Hong Kong, Shanghai. I have traveled the world, my friends. I have gotten lost in backwater India, and I still have never gone to the Bahamas, and it's less than an hour flight from my house. So the reason I tell you the story about Kaizen is, and the reason this revelation came out is I tried to book my Bahamas trip. Backstory on this. I started building my businesses back in 2013. I was living in the Dominican Republic. Again, I've traveled, I've lived abroad. I moved back to the United States in 2013, and I decided I was going to build businesses and move back abroad because I just like life on the move better. I've traveled the world in my 20s. I've lived in Dominican Republic in my 30s, and I decided I'm going to come to America and make money and then live abroad and spend money, right? It's easier to spend money and live in other countries than it is in America, but it's easier to make money here. Making money is our culture. Think about that sentence for a second, and that's actually scary for your mental health and your goals if you think about it. But when you're here in this culture, you can't help but think about making money, and that's what we did. Came back, built a few businesses, and then I started sending my partner, Marissa. My wife, Marissa, at the time, she's like, I want to do a Vipassana retreat, which is like a meditation retreat of 10 days of silence. And she went, and she had massive impact. And then we said, Grant, your turn is next. And I said, great. But then some other employees wanted to go on Vipassana. So we sent them on Vipassana. And I was covering the company while they were traveling. Why? As an owner, you make sacrifices for your team. So this went on, and then my partner decided that, from this trip to Vipassana, she realized she wanted to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And so she wanted to do these very long, elaborate challenges to herself and discover who she was. It's powerful goals. And am I going to get behind that? Sure. So we focused all of our energy on sending her on this goal. And little did I know, I didn't take a rest, and I didn't take the trip that I wanted to take. Now, this went on and on, whether it was employees or team members or family members or someone, I kept putting myself on the side. And then I kept telling myself, that's okay. I'll just keep getting 1% better. I'll use this time to compound my improvement. And I did. My businesses grew. My fitness got better. My mental health got better. I was reading more books. I published my book. I accomplished a lot. I published that book right there and multiple others. And I built my following. And I built my crypto investments, which did very well for me. And then I built my crypto channel. And then we built the Smart Crypto Coach. Then we built our Not Crypto Bros show. And I started traveling the country doing crypto. And even though those were fun, it was work. And it wasn't the introspection I wanted. It wasn't the type of travel I wanted. It was a sacrifice for someone else. And I kept telling myself, that's okay. I'm Zen and I'm Kaizen. I'm going to keep getting 1% better every day. And what I realized is I had never taken a rest day. Long story short, I lived in a blame game that led to a lot of major changes in my life. And I was talking to Marissa the other day, and she said, Grant, now you have no excuse. There's no one in your life you can blame anymore. You've actually been building your companies and they're doing okay. Why aren't you saying yes to yourself? And I literally said, okay, today I'm going to go buy those tickets to the Bahamas because this year I have 4 trips planned. We're going to do the Bahamas trip. We're going to do a retreat and a meetup there and then do a little bit of vacationing. Then we're going to go to this summer, got a scouting trip for workshops. We're going to do workshops in Colombia for influencers, small business creators, and people achieving big goals. It's going to be an experience. It's going to be a retreat. We're going to visit the country. It's going to be awesome. But also we need to scout it. So we're going to go in June to go scout the country. And so our good buddy Jarrett is plugged in on that, and he's going to guide this trip. It's going to be super fun. And then we're going to do that very trip in November. And then it sounds like we're trying to plan a major hiking trip for a large group of friends in Chile in December, which is summer in the Southern Hemisphere. All this is starting to compound. I'm starting to say yes to myself, but it all begins with a small step. And that is can I say yes to myself? To just myself. And I'm going alone. I'm not meeting up with anybody until later in the trip when we might do this meetup for goal setting to the locals in the Bahamas. But really, I need to just go and unplug and write and take a recovery day and read a fiction book and write in my books and swim in the ocean and not be beholden to anyone else. I need to unplug and take a rest day. But I found that I couldn't do it. I kept trying to buy the tickets. I've got the money, kept trying to buy the tickets, and I wouldn't buy the tickets. Why didn't I do that? The screen was up. My booking.com was there. The hotel link was up. Why couldn't I do it? It was a very short trip. Why couldn't I do it? And I stumbled onto this comment that said, I am waiting for the perfect moment. And then I thought about Kaizen and realized I am addicted to continuously improving. I'm addicted to continuously improving. And this is where Kaizen begins to fail us, because I was thinking, I still need to get that 1% improvement. I need to get that 1% improvement. And I forget that I've had a compounded, not a linear, a compounded 300% or more improvement over that year, because 1% every day compounds. It's not accretive. It's not linear. It compounds, but I still wasn't enough. And I am addicted to that 1% improvement to the point where I can't take a rest day for my life. Now, I don't mind taking a rest day for the gym. I know that principle very well, but it's taken me nearly 25 years as a personal development coach to viscerally understand that professionally, from money making, from your relationships, even from spiritual development, you need to take a rest day. And finally, when I had that 1% revelation that there is the tyranny of 1% improvement. Well, I call it tyranny because it has a hold on your mind that if you go one day without improvement, you will miss out on the next movement. If you go one day without being in front of your screens, if you're a trader, or working out at the gym, if you're trying to get abs or whatever, if you go one day, you will lose all of your gains. And it's actually the opposite. If you can take a rest day, and you don't have to do this long, you don't have to unplug for 12 days on end. You just need to know how to give yourself a recovery day, give yourself a break from continuous improvement. My message today is that Kaizen is good, but not perfect. My message to you today is 1% improvements in is good, but continuous improvement without recovery will make you atrophied in so many other areas of your life, and you will have diminishing returns on your gains. Just like in fitness, you will have diminishing returns on your gains if you do not know how to unplug. And just like me trying to buy these airline tickets to the Bahamas, wasn't the perfect trip. I didn't have business connections to follow up with. I wasn't connected with the travel board because as a travel creator, I can get my trip paid for. I didn't have a retreat workshop booked out. I didn't maximize, which is Kaizen. Kaizen was shaped as a lean strategy for economic maximization, as I told the anecdote about Japan earlier. And if I couldn't take a vacation without all of these boxes being checked, it wasn't a worthwhile vacation. And that is the tyranny of productivity and continuous improvement. That's the tyranny of that. You should be able to tell yourself, hey, why don't you just go? You don't have to have a workshop set up, Grant. Well, what if I'm not maximizing this time? It's funny and it's humorous, but it's part of who I am. Now, that is also a strength of mine. And I don't want, if you're an ambitious person, I don't want to knock that. I'm an ambitious person. But my ambition leads to better gains, better results when I also have the ability to take a rest day so that my gains are maximized, so that I come out there with a fresh mind. So I come out of that with creativity. What do you get on a rest day that you're not working on productivity? You get art. You get creativity. You get new connections. You get new thoughts, new synaptic connections. You have new ideas come up in you. So, Grant, are you encouraging me to take a vacation day? You bet your ass I am. I'm encouraging you to schedule time in your schedule. Doesn't have to be even every week, though that would be great. For fitness, we say you can't work out 3 days straight without taking a rest day. I think you could work about 4 days straight, maybe 5, and take a rest day for your brain, working on your passion, working on your vision. Now, if you're following creative endeavors, I don't think you have to rest even from creative endeavors ever, because a creative endeavor, art, writing, something that brings you joy, you could do that every day without rest because it enriches you. It enlivens you. It causes you to be more alive. I don't think you have to take rest days from art, but I think you have to take rest days from feeding yourself on productivity in order to ensure that you're chasing art, that you're chasing your intuition, that you're listening. Too often when it comes to Kaizen, you're looking for 1% improvement, you're operating out of your left brain. And your right brain is where a lot of your intuition is nurtured. Now, I know that that's rudimentary. Intuition makes up a whole array of things. It's not just right brain, left brain BS. But for the purposes of today's show, generally the intuition comes from your right brain. It comes from cultivating your intuition, your creative side, your ability to have divergent and convergent thinking, inhaling and exhaling. Kaizen has failed me tremendously because I have unconsciously believed in continuous improvement. And I have forgotten, or at least I have said no to myself so often that I have forgotten how to say yes to myself in ways that aren't just measured by output and productivity. Like my trip to the Bahamas. Yes, we're going to go to Colombia and make that a retreat and make it fun. And we're going to optimize it. But we've got to leave time for open-ended exploration and creative endeavors, for art, for discovery, for wandering with no plan. The last time I really enjoyed travel was when I got off the boat in semester at sea and wandered around with no plan. Now, I've traveled a lot. Iceland was fun. Breckenridge was fun. But I felt this imperative that haunted me, that I had to optimize each of these trips. And as such, I did not have the ability to enjoy it as much as I could have. I was scrolling through my photos yesterday, trying to put together a reel for Instagram. And I was just going through all of my travel photos. And I said, I have very fond memories of this, but I know I didn't make this great for Wild Leaf Wanderer, Marissa, who just put hands up, boom, on Instagram. She was there for most of it, and I made it miserable for her many times because I was trying to get ahead so much and felt so far behind that I would not let myself step off of the continuous improvement train, even just for a moment, to truly enjoy it. I have very fond memories of most of these things now that I was scrolling through my photos. But when I thought about it at the time, I was so wound up with this 1% improvement tyranny that had to get done every day. Why am I talking about this? For this one quote, let me end with this one quote for you. It's a powerful quote by Mary Morrissey. And it says this: start living now. Stop saving the good china for that special occasion. Stop withholding your love until that special person materializes. Every day you are alive is a special occasion. Every minute, every breath is a gift from God. I was standing outside the gym yesterday thinking about this show today, and I was pondering what today's show was going to be about. And it dawned on me, I was in the middle of a parking lot, in the middle of a strip mall gym, just moved, and there was garbage in the parking lot, and there weren't mountains, and there wasn't oceanside. There was just asphalt and concrete and halogen lights that you could hear hum. And it dawned on me in this moment of gratitude, this is the moment. This is the thing. This is the life most of you are praying for. Most of you are holding out the good china. You're saving your hugs. You're saving your kisses on the cheek to the person to the left and right of you for someone more special, for a moment more special. There are very special people in our lives, absolutely, and they deserve special treatment, certainly. And there are certain moments that we're holding out for, goals that we have, goals of abs, goals of mountain climbing, goals of big achievements, goals of being on stages for big people, with big people, serving large audiences, and we're saving our best outfit. We're saving our best speech. We're saving our best moments of gratitude. We're saving ounces and ounces of joy we're like reserving even the ability. You and I have the ability to enjoy maximum pleasure and joy right here, right now, even in your cubicle at work, even in your remote job, even in your little apartment when you dream of mansions, in your little job when you dream of living on the road as a digital nomad, in that asphalt little gym when I'm dreaming of surf vacations in Costa Rica, Panama, Belize. I'm dreaming of these places continuously, even in this little show with our little audience here today, talking to this microphone, talking with you. I'm dreaming of TEDx stages. I'm dreaming of sharing the stage with Tony Robbins before he dies. I want to offer value, but I cannot live that if I do not live this, as if this, you are the most important audience that I've ever had. There is no future, there is no past, there is this moment, and that is where art comes from. Because art comes from living fully in the moment. We just happen to express that with acrylic or hiking or public speaking or stone sculpture. It's easier when it's an abstract thing that has no material capitalistic value in the moment to tap that, to see our best. I think of basketball. When some people play basketball, when I watched Michael Jordan, it was art. It was magic. He would lose himself in this and have a Kairos moment. So many of us are holding back in our jobs. We could be excelling in a way that's not just chasing the dollar up the corporate ladder, but chasing excellence of my own performance, which happens to have the result of me moving up the corporate ladder. Even if you don't care, if you do not have ambitions for the corporate ladder, that's fine. You should still be excelling. You should still have the ability to excel in anything because it's human and divine at the same time to express great art in whatever monotonous thing you do. Are you a mechanic? Be the best mechanic you've ever met. Do you work in corporate structure? Be the best mid-level manager that they've ever seen. Not so that you move along in the capitalist game, but so that you nurture the part of your brain that brings excellence into everything you do. Bring excellence into everything you do. And I don't just mean this rigid militaristic excellence. I mean this beauty and this art excellence where you grin and smile because, man, I gave that the best I could. And look, I made it better. And look, I made it better. And it's not continuous improvement in Kaizen. It's art, which is immeasurable. When we think about continuous improvement, we start to get into rigid structures of rules of output. But when we think in terms of art, output just happens. And sometimes it's messy, but it's always beautiful. I'm going to read this quote one more time to you because this is the goal. This is how you start living extraordinary states. Start living now. Here's the quote. Start living now. Stop saving the good china for that special occasion. Stop withholding your love, your joy, your passion, your commitment until some other special person materializes. Every day you are alive is a special occasion. Every minute, every breath is a gift from God. Sure, 1% improvements are great. Do it. Live it. I do. Know how to take a rest day to maximize your gains. And on that rest day, return to art and creativity. Stop waiting for something else. Start manifesting. But no matter what you do today, you know what I'm going to say. Remember the mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.